Are you ready to confront the darkness that's been quietly lurking in the corners of society? Satanism isn't just a myth, it's alive, thriving, and hiding in plain sight. From the music you listen to the secret rituals of the wealthy and powerful, the forces of evil are closer than you think. What if everything you've been told about Satanism is wrong? The truth is more terrifying than you could ever imagine. Step into the devil's playground and prepare to uncover the shocking secrets that may just change the way you see the world forever. Chapter 1. The Devil in Disguise. A brief history of Satanism. The shadow of Satan has loomed over human history like a dark and irresistible force, feared yet strangely alluring. From the ancient whispers of malevolent spirits to the organized modern philosophies of rebellion and individuality, Satanism has evolved in ways few could have imagined. But at its heart lies one unshakable constant: the figure of the devil, a creature of cunning, power, and seduction, wearing countless masks to both terrify and inspire. In the ancient world, the devil didn't yet have his red skin, forked tail, or fiery throne. Cultures across the globe personified evil in various ways: shadowy demons, trickster gods, and vengeful spirits. Yet these beings shared common traits. They defied order, reveled in chaos, and stood in stark opposition to the divine. The Hebrew Bible introduced Satan as a celestial adversary, a prosecutor of mankind rather than a ruler of hell. But as Christianity spread, this figure morphed into a singular and monstrous force of wickedness, the ultimate scapegoat for humanity's darkest fears. By the Middle Ages, the devil had become the face of heresy and witchcraft. Accusations of satanic worship rippled through Europe, leading to witch hunts and mass hysteria. In these harrowing centuries, the mere suggestion of a pact with the devil was enough to send victims to the pyre. The church's fiery sermons painted vivid pictures of diabolical rituals, orgiastic ceremonies, human sacrifices, and blasphemous rites. But were these rituals real? Or were they the inventions of fearful minds, desperate to find a target for their paranoia? Fast forward to the 20th century, and Satan's role shifted yet again. In 1966, Anton LaVey founded the Church of Satan, marking the birth of modern Satanism. But this wasn't the devil worship medieval inquisitors feared. It was something altogether different. LaVey's Satanism was a rejection of traditional religion, a celebration of individualism, indulgence, and carnal desire. In his infamous Satanic Bible, LaVey cast Satan not as a literal entity, but as a symbol of personal freedom, rebellion, and earthly pleasures. The Church of Satan became a cultural phenomenon, drawing both fascination and outrage. To its followers, it was liberation. To its critics, it was a sinister attack on morality. In the 21st century, another movement emerged to redefine Satanism: the Satanic Temple. With its sharp political edge, the temple embraced Satan as a symbol of resistance against tyranny and oppression. Their provocative campaigns, from installing statues of Baphomet to challenging religious privilege, ignited fierce debates about the role of religion in public life. For its members, the temple stood for justice, equality, and the separation of church and state. But to many outsiders, it was a thin veil for diabolical intentions. Satanism, in all its forms, thrives in the shadows, its allure both undeniable and terrifying. Is it a misunderstood philosophy or a true force of darkness? One thing is certain: the devil's disguise changes with the times, but his presence is eternal. From the ancient world to the modern age, the figure of Satan remains a chilling reminder that humanity's greatest fears often dwell within its own soul. Chapter 2. The Rituals of Fear. The Satanic Panic of the 1980s. The 1980s were a decade drenched in fear. Fear of the unknown, the unseen, and the unholy. It was the era of the Satanic Panic, when whispered accusations of dark rituals exploded into a nationwide hysteria. Overnight, the devil seemed to be everywhere, lurking in suburban basements, lurking in daycare centers, and speaking through heavy metal music. The Satanic Panic didn't just grip the imagination. It tore apart communities, ruined lives, and left a chilling legacy of paranoia that lingers even today. It all began quietly, with scattered claims of ritual abuse. Parents reported strange stories from their children, mysterious ceremonies, dark-robed figures, and unspeakable acts performed in secret. What started as isolated incidents quickly snowballed when sensational media coverage ignited the public's deepest fears. News reports spoke of shadowy cults operating in plain sight, abducting children for blood sacrifices and black masses. Talk shows paraded survivors of satanic abuse who described horrifying tales of ritualistic torment. The lines between fact, fiction, and fear blurred. Nowhere was this hysteria more palpable than in the infamous McMartin preschool trial. In 1983, accusations of satanic rituals at a California daycare erupted into one of the longest and most expensive criminal cases in American history. Alleged victims described surreal scenarios: tunnels beneath the school, animal sacrifices, and secret ceremonies designed to summon demonic forces. Yet as investigators dug deeper, literally and figuratively, the evidence proved elusive. No tunnels were found. No corroborating proof emerged. But by the time the case fell apart, the damage was done. The specter of satanic cults had already embedded itself into the collective psyche. The panic was fed by self-proclaimed experts on satanic activity who toured the country, giving lectures to law enforcement and community groups. They painted vivid pictures of ritual sites, sacrificial altars, and symbols of the occult. Entire police forces were trained to recognize the supposed signs of satanic activity, often based on dubious evidence. Harmless symbols, pentagrams, inverted crosses, and even heavy metal band logos became proof of dark intentions. Innocuous activities like Dungeons and Dragons or listening to Ozzy Osbourne were suddenly gateways to hell. Books like Michelle Remembers fueled the fire. This controversial memoir, allegedly based on recovered memories, detailed grotesque acts of satanic abuse endured by a young girl. Though its credibility was widely discredited, the damage was done. It gave form to the formless fears sweeping the nation and sparked a wave of copycat allegations. The Satanic Panic wasn't just a cultural phenomenon. It was a modern witch hunt. Innocent people were accused, jailed, and ostracized. Families were torn apart. Careers were destroyed. And through it all, not a single shred of concrete evidence emerged to prove the existence of organized satanic cults perpetrating these heinous acts. The 1980s left behind a trail of shattered lives and unanswered questions. Was the Satanic Panic a case of mass hysteria fueled by fear and the media? Or was it the result of something darker, something that still hides in the shadows, waiting for the world to look away? Chapter 3. Dark Dealings in the Music Industry. The music industry has always had a flirtation with the forbidden. From primal drum beats in ancient rituals to the rebellious anthems of modern rock, music has long been accused of summoning forces beyond human understanding. But in the dark corners of the music world lies an unsettling question. How far have some artists gone to channel this power? Are their iconic careers the result of raw talent? Or did they strike deals with something far more sinister? The whispers of satanic influence in music date back centuries. The chilling legend of Niccolò Paganini, the violin virtuoso of the 1800s, is often cited as the first musical pact with the devil. His performances were so extraordinary, his mastery so inhuman, that audiences believed he had sold his soul for talent. Paganini fueled the rumors with his ghostly stage presence and macabre appearance, his thin frame and haunting eyes seeming to belong more to the underworld than the concert hall. Fast forward to the 20th century, and the devil had found a new instrument, the electric guitar. The bluesman Robert Johnson became the most infamous name in this dark folklore. According to legend, Johnson met the devil at a Mississippi crossroads one fateful night and traded his soul for mastery of the guitar. His haunting songs like Crossroad Blues and his untimely death at 27 only deepened the mystique, cementing him as the forefather of what many see as the devil's grip on modern music. The rise of rock and roll brought Satanic Panic to new heights. In the 1970s, Led Zeppelin became a lightning rod for controversy. Their enigmatic guitarist, Jimmy Page, openly admitted his obsession with the occult and even purchased the mansion of Aleister Crowley, one of history's most infamous Satanists. Fans and skeptics alike pointed to alleged black-masked messages in their iconic song Stairway to Heaven, claiming that when played in reverse, the lyrics praise Satan. While Page and the band denied the accusations, the idea of subliminal satanic messages in rock music spread like wildfire. Ozzy Osbourne, dubbed the Prince of Darkness, leaned into the accusations with theatrical glee, biting the head off a bat on stage and singing of demonic possession. Bands like Black Sabbath and Slayer embraced the occult, adorning their albums with pentagrams and lyrics that seemed to glorify the devil himself. Were these just marketing ploys designed to shock, or was there something more sinister lurking behind the scenes? Even pop music hasn't escaped the devil's shadow. Accusations of satanic imagery have plagued superstars like Beyoncé, Jay-Z, and Lady Gaga. The Illuminati conspiracy theories claim these artists are part of a secret satanic elite, using their fame and influence to spread demonic messages through hypnotic beats and seductive lyrics. Music videos filled with cryptic symbols, one-eyed imagery, pyramids, and inverted crosses only stoke the paranoia. Whether it's the seductive melodies of a bluesman's guitar or the hypnotic pulse of a stadium anthem, music has a power that feels almost supernatural. Does the devil truly play a hand in its creation, or are these tales merely the product of overactive imaginations? One thing is clear: the music industry's dance with the devil is far from over, and the haunting rhythm of these legends continues to play on. Chapter 4: The Hollywood Hex, Satanism in Tinseltown. Beneath the glitz and glamour of Hollywood lies a dark undercurrent, a whispered world of secret rituals, shadowy cabals, and whispers of satanic influence. For decades, Tinseltown has been the epicenter of conspiracy theories, with rumors swirling that the price of stardom isn't talent, but submission to the occult. With mysterious deaths, cryptic symbols, and secretive gatherings, Hollywood's darker side feels more like a horror film than a red carpet affair. The origins of these rumors trace back to the early days of Hollywood's golden age, when stars like Marilyn Monroe and James Dean seemed to burn too brightly, their lives ending in tragedy shrouded in speculation. Some claimed Monroe was ensnared in secret rituals conducted by the elite, her death a carefully orchestrated cover-up. Dean, whose Portia was dubbed the Little Bastard, supposedly carried a curse linked to dark forces, fueling tales of occult interference in the industry. As the decades rolled on, these whispers only grew louder. In the 1960s, the Manson family murders shocked the world and painted Hollywood with a satanic brush. Charles Manson, obsessed with control and chaos, used his own twisted philosophies to lure his followers into committing horrific crimes. The brutal slayings of actress Sharon Tate and others weren't just murders. They were allegedly rituals designed to sow terror and feed Manson's insatiable lust for power. But it isn't just the distant past that fuels Hollywood's eerie reputation. Modern conspiracy theorists believe that some of the entertainment world's biggest stars owe their fame to dark pacts and rituals. Exclusive parties at hidden mansions, complete with black-robed figures, sacrificial offerings, and demonic chants, are said to be the price of entry into an elite circle. These gatherings, shrouded in secrecy, are rumored to serve as both initiation ceremonies and displays of allegiance to occult forces. The entertainment industry's fascination with satanic imagery only adds to the intrigue. Directors like Roman Polanski pushed boundaries with films like Rosemary's Baby, a chilling tale of demonic cults set against the backdrop of everyday life. Some say Polanski's film was more than fiction. It was a reflection of Hollywood's hidden truths. Later, films like Eyes Wide Shut, Stanley Kubrick's exploration of masked rituals and secret societies, only deepened public suspicion. Kubrick's sudden death shortly after the film's release sparked whispers that he had revealed too much. Then there are the mysterious deaths, tragic, untimely, and often unexplained. Heath Ledger, Brittany Murphy, and Anton Yelchin are just a few names added to the growing list of stars whose lives were cut short amid eerie circumstances. Some believe these deaths were sacrifices demanded by shadowy forces controlling the industry from behind the curtain. Hollywood, the city of dreams, has always cast long shadows. Is the satanic connection merely urban legend, born from our collective need to find darkness in the light? Or is there a hidden truth lurking behind the silver screen? As cameras roll and awards are handed out, the whispers persist, reminding us that fame may come with a devilish price, and Hollywood's brightest lights may hide its darkest secrets. Chapter 5. The Devil Wears a Suit, Satanism and Politics. Power and darkness have always been intertwined, but nowhere does the intersection feel more chilling than in the halls of political power. For decades, conspiracy theories have whispered of satanic rituals taking place in shadowy chambers, hidden from the public eye. Behind polished suits, eloquent speeches, and gilded podiums, some believe a sinister undercurrent flows. A cabal of elites using satanic practices to control governments, manipulate events, and amass unimaginable power. At the heart of these allegations lie secret societies, cloaked in mystery and steeped in rituals. The Bohemian Grove, an exclusive retreat for the world's most powerful men, has long been a lightning rod for such theories. Every summer, politicians, business tycoons, and cultural influencers gather at this secluded California compound. Officially, it's a networking event, but leaked footage of robed figures performing a bizarre ceremony in front of a massive owl statue, an entity some link to the occult, tells a different story. Was this harmless theater or a sinister ritual of allegiance? The Freemasons, too, have faced accusations of satanic connections. This ancient fraternal order has influenced politics for centuries, with countless world leaders counted among its ranks. The Masonic temples, adorned with cryptic symbols, are said to conceal rituals that invoke dark forces. Conspiracy theorists claim that the group's higher echelons harbor an inner circle dedicated to satanic worship, controlling governments from the shadows. Even the symbols etched into the very fabric of government institutions raise questions. The all-seeing eye on the US dollar bill, the pentagrams subtly embedded in urban planning, and the occult numerology surrounding political events, are these mere coincidences or carefully placed markers of allegiance to darker forces? Critics point to these symbols as evidence of an elite group weaving satanic influence into the world's most powerful nations. The alleged ties between Satanism and politics don't end with rituals and symbols. They extend into the realm of personal scandal. The infamous Pizzagate theory rocked the internet, suggesting that a child trafficking ring connected to satanic rituals operated out of a Washington, D.C. pizzeria, allegedly linked to high-ranking politicians. While the theory was widely debunked, it unearthed the public's deep-seated fears of corruption and depravity lurking in the corridors of power. Then there's the Franklin scandal, a chilling case from the 1980s involving allegations of child abuse and satanic rituals tied to prominent politicians. Though the case was dismissed as a hoax by the courts, its shocking claims left an indelible mark, adding fuel to the fire of those who believe Satanism has infiltrated political circles. Are these theories mere paranoia, the result of humanity's tendency to find monsters in the shadows? Or do they reveal glimpses of a terrifying truth? One thing is certain: power corrupts, and the world of politics often feels like a stage where unseen forces battle for control. Whether or not Satan wears a suit, the whispers persist, casting a dark shadow over even the brightest corridors of power. Chapter 6. Sinister Symbols, the Hidden Occult in Pop Culture. The devil has always been an artist's muse, weaving his dark presence into the fabric of pop culture. From the flashing lights of music videos to the billboards towering over our cities, occult symbols and satanic imagery lurk in plain sight. It's all around us, often dismissed as harmless art or edgy fashion. But what if it's more than that? What if the world's most pervasive cultural mediums are tools of subtle indoctrination, pulling society into the shadows, one symbol at a time? Look closer at the movies you love. Horror films, of course, revel in the macabre, but the occult isn't confined to terrifying tales. Blockbuster franchises like The Exorcist and The Omen are laden with satanic themes, but even seemingly innocent family films like the Lion King and Harry Potter, have been accused of hiding occult symbols in their stories. The pentagram, the all-seeing eye, and the number 666 are scattered throughout pop culture. Is it mere coincidence, or is Hollywood leaving breadcrumbs, luring the masses toward a deeper fascination with the occult? Music videos might be the most overt stage for satanic imagery. Performers like Beyoncé, Lady Gaga, and Lil Nas X have been accused of flaunting occult symbols, from devil horns to inverted crosses. Lil Nas X's Montero, Call Me By Your Name, famously shows him sliding down a pole in a hell, giving Satan a lap dance before seizing his horns. Critics claimed the video wasn't just provocative, it was a deliberate glamorization of Satanism. Artists like Marilyn Manson and Ozzy Osbourne have built their careers on courting the devil's imagery, with blood-soaked stages, inverted crosses, and lyrics that flirt with blasphemy. But it's not just the rebels of music. Even pop stars, from Madonna to Billie Eilish, use dark imagery to captivate audiences, leaving fans wondering where the performance ends and the occult begins. And then there's fashion. The haute couture runways have long played with fire, embracing themes of the forbidden. Brands like Gucci and Balenciaga have faced backlash for incorporating Baphomet, pentagrams, and devilish iconography into their designs. High-profile models strut in outfits that could double as ritual robes, while advertisements drape occult symbols over celebrity endorsements. Are these artistic provocations, or are they normalizing the sinister? Even children's media hasn't escaped scrutiny. Disney films have been accused of embedding hidden symbols in their animation. Pentagrams in The Little Mermaid, goat-headed figures in Hercules, and subliminal messages throughout. Pokemon, with its evolution themes and psychic creatures, was once decried as satanic propaganda. Critics claim these elements subtly introduce the occult to impressionable minds under the guise of fun and fantasy. Whether deliberate or not, the sheer volume of occult imagery in pop culture is undeniable. Is it the result of artists tapping into humanity's innate fascination with the forbidden? Or is there a deeper, more malevolent agenda, a slow erosion of spiritual barriers, grooming society to embrace darkness disguised as entertainment? One thing is certain. The devil's greatest trick may not have been convincing the world he doesn't exist, but hiding in the things we love the most. Chapter 7. The Demonic Doctrine, Satanism and Religion. Few things strike deeper fear into the hearts of believers than the notion of Satanism standing in direct opposition to their faith. Rooted in rebellion, Satanism has always positioned itself as the ultimate adversary to traditional religion, particularly Christianity. It is a doctrine that does not simply challenge the tenets of faith. It seeks to invert them, casting light into shadow and virtue into vice. For the devout, it is nothing short of a spiritual war, with Satanism representing the darkest threat to the sacred. The mere existence of Satanism is an affront to the core beliefs of major religions. Christianity, for instance, is built on the cosmic struggle between good and evil, God and Satan. To followers of Christ, Satan is not a concept, but a very real entity, forever tempting humanity to stray from righteousness. Yet Satanists reject this dichotomy entirely. Figures like Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan, didn't see Satan as a literal being, but as a symbol of individualism, self-indulgence, and freedom from moral constraint. His Satanic Bible, published in 1969, became the foundational text for modern Satanism, offering an unapologetic rejection of Christian values like humility, forgiveness, and self-denial. The Church of Satan is not the only face of this rebellion. The Satanic Temple, with its more politically charged agenda, actively confronts organized religion. Unlike LaVey's group, the Temple embraces activism, using satanic imagery to fight for religious freedom and secularism. Their infamous campaigns, like erecting a Baphomet statue in response to Ten Commandments displays on public property, provoke outrage among Christians, who see these acts as nothing less than blasphemy. For the Temple, however, it's a calculated move, a way to expose what they believe is the hypocrisy of religious privilege in modern society. Yet Satanism doesn't only clash with Christianity. Islam, Judaism, And even some strands of Hinduism view Satan, or his cultural equivalent, as the embodiment of evil. The very idea of embracing what these faiths consider demonic is unthinkable. To many Muslims, for example, Iblis, Satan, represents ultimate defiance of Allah's will, and any form of satanic practice is seen as a grievous sin. Across cultures, Satanism ignites fear, condemnation, and even violence, as religious communities rally to protect their sacred beliefs from what they perceive as an existential threat. The controversy isn't just philosophical, it's deeply personal. Religious followers see Satanism as more than rebellion. They see it as spiritual warfare, corrupting the vulnerable and luring them into darkness. High-profile accusations of satanic rituals, from child abuse cases to desecration of holy sites, fuel the perception of Satanism as a real and present danger to society. Though many of these accusations lack evidence, the cultural tension they ignite is undeniable. Is Satanism truly a demonic force? Or is it a mirror reflecting the fears and failings of religion itself? One thing is clear. By inverting sacred symbols and challenging holy doctrines, Satanism forces believers to confront their faith and their fears head-on. In this battle for the soul, the devil's doctrine doesn't just oppose religion. It thrives on shaking its foundations. Chapter 8. Sacrifices or Scapegoats. The truth about satanic rituals. Satanic rituals have long been shrouded in mystery, with their dark allure tempting those who seek forbidden power. To many, these ceremonies are simply the stuff of legend, exaggerated tales concocted by paranoid minds. But behind the myths and whispered rumors, there exists a darker reality, a reality where the lines between ritual and horror blur. While some will argue that rituals are nothing more than theatrical performances designed to provoke fear, the truth is far more chilling. These rituals are rooted in an ideology that values chaos and destruction, often demanding a sacrifice, both physical and spiritual, from those who participate. At the core of many satanic rituals lies the promise of ultimate power. But what price must one pay for this forbidden gift? In the darkest corners of satanic belief, ritual sacrifice is seen not just as symbolic, but as a necessity, a way to appease the devil or the forces of darkness in exchange for influence, protection, or wealth. Whether animal or human, the ritual sacrifice is intended to summon power and control, binding the participant to a force that transcends mortal limitations. The act is a perverse inversion of the sacred, a direct challenge to the laws of nature and morality. And for those who seek it, it's a dangerous game with consequences they may not fully understand. The act of sacrifice is not always a literal one, but often it is the lives of the participants themselves that are sacrificed on the altar of their own ambition and desires. Rituals promise to free them from the constraints of everyday life, allowing them to transcend the ordinary and access something much darker. Yet, in the process, they lose pieces of their humanity, trading their soul for fleeting power. This loss is often irreversible, and those who fall prey to the temptation of these rituals find themselves further ensnared in a web of violence and manipulation. However, the allure of satanic rituals isn't limited to physical sacrifices. Emotional and psychological tolls can be just as devastating. Those who participate in these rituals often become addicted to the power they feel, chasing the high that comes with binding themselves to dark forces. It's not just the body that's sacrificed, it's the mind and spirit. The consequences ripple far beyond the immediate ceremony, leaving participants haunted by guilt, fear, and a growing sense of alienation from the world around them. They may come to realize too late that they've opened a door they can't close, and what they've summoned will never truly let them go. While some claim that these rituals are nothing more than hoaxes or dramatized events, the sheer volume of evidence pointing to the reality of ritualistic practices cannot be ignored. Secretive groups, hidden ceremonies, and cryptic symbols. These are not figments of imagination, but real-world manifestations of an ideology that thrives on secrecy, fear, and control. And while it's easy to dismiss these rituals as mere theater, the very fact that they exist, and that people are willing to perform them, says something deeply unsettling about the power they wield. In the end, it's not just the physical acts of sacrifice that define these rituals. It's the toll they take on those who dare to partake in them. Satanic rituals are not just an act of rebellion. They are a surrender of the soul, the morality, and ultimately, humanity itself. For those who choose to walk this path, the promise of power is always overshadowed by the terrifying reality that true power in the dark arts comes at a horrifying cost. Chapter 9: Children of the Beast, Satanism and Youth Culture. The youth of every generation have been accused of dancing too close to the devil's fire, but the fear of Satanism corrupting young minds reached a fever pitch in the late 20th century. To parents, teachers, and religious leaders, it seemed as if the forces of darkness had discovered the ultimate weapon: the imagination of the young. From role-playing games to heavy metal music and now to shadowy corners of the internet, the cry has been the same: our children are being seduced by Satan. The 1980s saw the rise of Dungeons and Dragons, a fantasy role-playing game that allowed players to wield magic, fight monsters, and immerse themselves in epic quests. To many, it was harmless escapism, but to others, it was an open doorway to the occult. Rumors began to swirl. Players were said to lose themselves in the game, engaging in real-life spellcasting and, in some cases, self-harm or suicide. The game's imaginary demons became real monsters in the minds of concerned adults, and D&D was vilified as a recruitment tool for satanic cults. But nothing stirred the cauldron of fear quite like music. Heavy metal, with its dark themes and aggressive sound, became the anthem of rebellion and the scapegoat for satanic influence. Bands like Black Sabbath and Slayer wore their occult imagery like armor, with album covers depicting pentagrams, devils, and fire. Judas Priest was even taken to court in 1990 when two young men tragically ended their lives, allegedly after listening to songs with hidden messages urging them to do so. While the band was acquitted, the trial cemented the idea that music wasn't just entertainment, it was a weapon of corruption. As the 1990s gave way to the digital age, fears of satanic influence over the young evolved. The internet became a breeding ground for subcultures exploring dark and occult themes. Websites dedicated to Satanism, Wicca, and the supernatural offered a rabbit hole of forbidden knowledge to curious teens. In chat rooms and forums, conspiracy theorists warned that cults were grooming vulnerable youth online, luring them into rituals that blurred the line between roleplay and reality. Gaming wasn't spared either. Titles like Doom and Diablo drew accusations of glorifying demons and violence, with critics claiming they desensitized young players to the horrors of the occult. Some even suggested that the games served as virtual training grounds for real-life satanic activity. But perhaps the most insidious aspect of this fear lies in its subtlety. Satanic symbols, from inverted crosses to pentagrams, have crept into fashion, advertisements, and even children's cartoons. For some, this is harmless aesthetic rebellion, but for others, it signals a quiet normalization of the devil in everyday life. Is this all paranoia? Or is Satanism's reach truly extending into youth culture, hidden in the games they play, the music they love, and the memes they share? Regardless of the truth, one thing remains certain. The idea of young minds falling under the devil's spell continues to strike a chord of primal fear. The children of the beast, whether real or imagined, remain a shadowy figure lurking at the edges of society's consciousness. Chapter 10: Hexes and Hoaxes. Famous cases of alleged Satanism. In the murky depths of history, Satanism has often been accused of spawning some of the most horrifying crimes, where blood was spilled in dark rites and lives shattered under the weight of the devil's influence. Some of these cases are rooted in truth, while others have been distorted by fear and sensationalism, forever blurring the line between fact and myth. Among the most infamous are the stories of the West Memphis Three, the Manson family, and the tragic deaths tied to satanic lore, cases that have both shocked the world and fueled terrifying conspiracy theories. In 1993, 3 young boys were found brutally murdered in the small town of West Memphis, Arkansas. The nature of the killings, 3 children bound, mutilated, and left in a creek, sent shockwaves through the community. The authorities quickly speculated that the crime was linked to satanic rituals, despite a complete lack of evidence connecting the crime scene to any occult practices. Local teens, including Damien Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly, were accused, partly due to their appearance, long hair, black clothing, and an interest in heavy metal music. With no physical evidence linking them to the crime, the teenagers were convicted in a trial marred by questionable police work and a public hysteria that painted them as devil worshippers. It wasn't until years later, after a long battle for justice, that new DNA evidence proved their innocence. But the case had already fueled an intense fear of satanic influence, turning a tragic murder into a nightmarish symbol of dark forces at work. Then there is the infamous Manson family. Charles Manson, the charismatic leader of a small cult, convinced his followers that the impending race war, known as Helter Skelter, would bring about the apocalypse. He taught his followers that they needed to carry out ritualistic murders to ignite this chaos. In August 1969, Manson's followers, under his delusional influence, brutally murdered actress Sharon Tate and several others in what was described as a blood-soaked, satanic ritual. Though Manson himself was never officially linked to Satanism, his obsession with the occult, his use of apocalyptic imagery, and his unholy reign over the group left a chilling mark on the public's perception of satanic influence in American culture. The Manson murders were often cited as proof that Satanism could take hold of vulnerable minds and lead them down a path of violent madness. But satanic lore didn't just invade the world of infamous cults. It seeped into everyday life, turning ordinary people into alleged agents of the devil. Consider the case of the DC sniper in 2002. While the shooters, John Allen Muhammad and Lee Boyd Malvo, were not directly linked to Satanism, rumors circulated that the killings were part of a larger occult plan, with some speculating that they were part of a ritualistic sacrifice. The police, media, and public obsessed over the possibility of an underlying satanic motive, yet no such evidence ever emerged. In each of these cases, Satanism was woven into the narrative not necessarily by the criminals, but by society's insatiable need to understand the senseless, the horrific, and the impossible. Whether the crimes were actually linked to dark forces or not, they became fertile ground for sensationalized stories of devil worship, serving as both a warning and a reflection of deep-seated societal fears. In the end, these hexes and hoaxes serve as a chilling reminder of how easily the line between truth and terror can be blurred when Satanism is thrown into the mix. Chapter 11. Black Mass Media. The role of the Internet in spreading Satanism. The Internet, an endless, glowing abyss of information, has transformed the world in ways unimaginable just a few decades ago. While it has brought us closer together, it has also given rise to darker corners where forbidden knowledge is shared and the boundaries between fantasy and reality blur. Among the many sinister forces lurking in the digital shadows, Satanism has found a fertile breeding ground. From deep web forums to viral social media posts, the internet has become a megaphone for satanic philosophies, conspiracy theories, and whispered rumors that once thrived in secret. What was once hidden in the dusty corners of occult bookstores or in hushed candlelit rituals is now just a few clicks away, spreading faster and wider than ever before. On the surface, the digital age might seem like a place of enlightenment. Yet beneath this shiny veneer, darker forces thrive in the anonymity the internet provides. Satanic groups, like the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple, have used the internet to amplify their message, reaching an audience far beyond their physical boundaries. What began as an underground movement has become a global phenomenon, with websites, online communities, and even social media influencers espousing satanic philosophy as an alternative to mainstream religious dogma. In forums and on YouTube, discussions about atheism, humanism, and defiance of traditional moral codes have found a wide-reaching platform, encouraging followers to reject the constraints of conventional faith and embrace individual freedom, sometimes through the lens of Satanism. The internet has given these ideologies power and presence, making them part of the cultural conversation in ways never before possible. However, As much as the internet has allowed for the spread of Satanism, it has also fueled the rise of conspiracy theories, particularly those involving the supposed influence of satanic cults in the highest echelons of society. The horrors of the 1980s Satanic Panic have been reborn online, where wild claims of child sacrifice, secret satanic elites, and global conspiracies swirl like smoke. The digital world has become a battleground for these theories, with websites, podcasts, and social media platforms dedicated to unraveling the truth behind satanic power structures that allegedly control governments, entertainment industries, and even the fate of entire nations. What makes this digital satanic landscape even more terrifying is its ability to intertwine fiction with reality. On sites like Reddit, 4chan, and the dark web, discussions about Satanism aren't just limited to ideology. They've become tangled with urban legends, fake news, and sensationalized stories. People are constantly sharing their experiences with the occult, some genuine, others fabricated, but all contribute to a sense of paranoia that blurs the lines between myth and fact. Scarily enough, some of these stories are so compelling that they begin to seep into the real world, influencing young, impressionable minds. While the vast majority of satanic content online remains purely philosophical or performance art, the internet has a sinister tendency to amplify the darkest corners of humanity's psyche. The anonymity the digital world offers allows individuals to connect with others who share their beliefs, and more dangerously, it allows those beliefs to grow unchecked, morphing from innocent curiosity into something much more dangerous. In this digital age, the boundaries between cult and community, between hoax and horror, have become increasingly difficult to define. The internet may not have conjured Satanism, but it has certainly given it a powerful, global stage from which to perform its dark, enigmatic dance. Chapter 12: The Devil's Dollar. Satanism in Business and Corporations. Behind the gleaming glass towers and luxurious boardrooms, where fortunes are made and empires built, whispers of a darker force have long lingered. Satanism, so often associated with shadowy cults and unholy rituals, has allegedly found its way into the world of high finance and corporate power. Beneath the polished surface of business deals and stock market fluctuations, rumors swirl about secretive occult gatherings, ritualistic sacrifices, and the mysterious presence of satanic symbols in some of the world's most influential companies. Are these mere coincidences, or is there something darker at play? The idea of Satanism infiltrating the corporate world may seem like the stuff of conspiracy theory, but when you begin to examine the power structures at the top of multinational corporations, strange patterns begin to emerge. The ultra-wealthy, those who wield immense influence, have often been tied to rumors of occult practices, with some believing that these rituals serve as a way to gain even more power and control. These powerful individuals, with their access to secret societies and exclusive networks, are said to partake in gatherings that invoke dark forces in exchange for wealth, fame, and dominance over their competitors. From the most secretive elite gatherings to the infamous Bilderberg meetings, satanic rituals are allegedly woven into the very fabric of their decision-making processes. These ritualistic ceremonies, often held behind closed doors, are said to include everything from bizarre symbolic sacrifices to the use of arcane rites that allegedly seal business deals with otherworldly power. But the influence of Satanism doesn't stop at secret meetings in the back rooms of billion-dollar firms. It seeps into the very logos and branding of some of the most powerful companies in the world. Look closely at some of the most iconic brands, and you'll find symbols that, to the trained eye, bear an eerie resemblance to ancient satanic imagery. The use of pentagrams, horns, all-seeing eyes, and other occult symbols, far from being innocent design choices, are thought to serve as a nod to the darker forces that some believe guide these companies to unimaginable wealth and influence. From luxury fashion labels to tech giants, satanic symbolism is often hidden in plain sight, staring back at the unsuspecting consumer. Could these symbols be a form of branding? Or are they a hidden message of allegiance to a power beyond comprehension? Perhaps most disturbing is the idea that some of these corporations' leaders may not just be playing with fire. They might be worshiping it. In 2004, Author and investigative journalist John Ronson uncovered disturbing stories from the fringes of Silicon Valley, where tech moguls were allegedly engaging in satanic practices to maintain their grip on power. While these stories were sensationalized by the media, the mere suggestion of such dark practices within the world of wealth and business sent shockwaves through the public. The truth remains elusive, but the connection between extreme wealth and occult symbolism continues to fuel both speculation and fear. Is it all just coincidence? A mix of misunderstood symbolism and urban legend? Or is the corporate world really hiding a secret, a pact with the devil himself, ensuring that the rich remain rich and the powerful continue their rise? In the world of billionaires and global empires, it's easy to dismiss such notions as conspiracy theory. But when you peer into the world behind the curtain, the disturbing idea that the devil's dollar has been signed in blood might be closer to reality than anyone dares to admit. Chapter 13. Hell Hath No Fury. Women in Satanism. In the depths of Satanism, where power, rebellion, and dark rituals intertwine, a shocking truth emerges. Women are not just followers. They are leaders, symbols, and a force of fire and fury. Throughout history, women have not only played significant roles in satanic practices, they have often been at the forefront, challenging the very conventions that society has imposed upon them. In a realm where the patriarchal grip of religion and tradition reigns, women in Satanism defy these norms and embrace their power in a way that the world is still too afraid to fully comprehend. One of the most notorious figures in the world of modern Satanism is Magistra Blanche Barton, the former high priestess of the Church of Satan and the mother of its most infamous leader's child, Anton LaVey, the man who founded the Church of Satan in 1966. Barton's rise to prominence marked a significant shift in how Satanism was perceived and practiced. As LaVey's right hand, she not only helped shape the philosophy of Satanism, but also embodied its darkest tenet: defiance against the societal norms that have long oppressed women. In her leadership, she proved that Satanism wasn't just for the disillusioned men of society. It was for anyone, especially those willing to embrace their inner darkness, their desires, and their sense of self-worth. Then there is LaVey's successor, Peter H. Gilmore, but many know that it was Blanche Barton who laid the foundation for much of the modern satanic movement. Her work as a feminist within the satanic realm showed how women could rise to power in a religion that many believed to be dominated by men. By acknowledging the divine feminine, Barton was a pioneer for women claiming power in a traditionally male-dominated religion. The very essence of Satanism has provided a platform for women to redefine their roles, not as mere followers or submissive devotees, but as leaders, thinkers, and symbols of strength. The idea that women in Satanism embody a force of nature that transcends the boundaries set by traditional religious teachings sends shivers down the spines of conservative believers, who insist that women must remain in subservient roles. For them, the rise of powerful women in Satanism is a nightmare that forces them to confront the terrifying possibility of losing control over societal expectations. On the flip side, women like Marina LaVey, Anton's daughter, have come to symbolize the rebellion of the next generation. Raised in the very shadows of the Satanic Temple, Marina's rise challenges not only Satanism's critics, but also the very idea that Satanism is a purely male-dominated movement. Her embodiment of her father's legacy takes the form of a new breed of Satanist, one who is unapologetically feminine, deeply intelligent, and equally ruthless in the pursuit of personal freedom. These women represent more than mere defiance. They're a living testament to the transformative power of Satanism itself. By embracing the satanic ethos of individualism, they shatter the glass ceilings imposed by both religion and society. They cast off the chains of tradition and reveal the devil's true face, not as a man, but as an entity that offers power, equality, and control to all who dare to challenge the world's deepest fears. The women of Satanism are no longer merely pawns in a game of dark rituals and evil deeds. They are the leaders, the architects of a new world where gender is irrelevant and power is an unshackled right. And in a society that trembles at the very mention of the devil's name, these women's names are becoming legends. The devil may not care who wears the horns, but hell hath no fury like a woman who's taken control of her own destiny. Chapter 14. The Devil's Advocate, the truth behind the fear. For centuries, Satanism has loomed over humanity's darkest fears as the ultimate representation of evil, an ideology that dares to challenge the very fabric of moral society. It has sparked not only intrigue, but horror. While some may argue that Satanism is a misunderstood path to personal liberation, there is a compelling case to be made that, beneath its seductive promises of power and freedom, it harbors a force of true malevolence, one that calls for the destruction of not only religious institutions, but the very concept of good and evil itself. At its core, Satanism is a rebellion against authority, against the constraints of traditional morality, and against the power of higher beings. It claims to champion free will, self-determination, and indulgence without remorse. However, this rejection of moral boundaries often blurs the line between defiance and destruction. Satanism's appeal lies in its promise of ultimate liberation. Liberation that is free from the rules and structures that have governed human civilization for millennia. Yet when one forsakes all moral restraint, the consequences are far from liberating. This dark philosophy isn't just theoretical. It has been manifested in acts of horrific violence and cruelty. Throughout history, there have been individuals and groups who have taken Satanism to its most dangerous extremes. With no moral compass to guide them, they have justified acts of terror under the guise of satanic doctrine. There are accounts of murders, rituals, and unspeakable atrocities carried out by those who viewed Satanism as more than just an intellectual pursuit. It became, for them, a justification for brutality, an ideology that told them that anything was permissible in the name of power and pleasure. One of the most chilling aspects of Satanism's potential for evil is its appeal to vulnerable individuals. People in distress, or those searching for meaning, can find solace in the promise of power, even if it comes at the cost of their soul. The dangerous allure of Satanism has often drawn individuals into dark cults, where they are manipulated and abused. These cults don't merely promise power. They strip away every human connection in the name of a higher cause, replacing love, compassion, and empathy with control and fear. Satanism's embrace of hedonism and the rejection of moral norms can be intoxicating, but it often leads to destruction, both for the individuals involved and for society at large. Those who subscribe to its most extreme forms may turn to rituals, sacrifices, and bloodshed in their quest to invoke the ultimate power of the devil. It becomes a path of total submission to the darker forces, where every choice made is a rejection of humanity and an embrace of chaos. This is the true face of Satanism, not the image of a misunderstood philosophy, but a dangerous, manipulative force that spreads like an infection. It promises freedom, but delivers only devastation. As Satanism continues to grow in influence and reach, its most insidious manifestations threaten to unravel the very moral fabric that keeps society from descending into darkness. In the end, the question remains, is Satanism truly a harmless rebellion against convention, or is it a force of pure evil, intent on eroding the boundaries between right and wrong, and plunging humanity into chaos? The answer lies not in the glossy, intellectual version of Satanism, but in the acts it inspires, acts that reveal the horrifying potential for destruction within its doctrine. Satanism, in its most dangerous forms, is far more than an abstract belief system. It is a deadly force that preys on the weak, corrupts the soul, and ultimately brings nothing but suffering and despair.